Hi everyone, welcome to Activity 1.16. We are only going to focus on one learning target in this video. I'm going to try and keep it short and concise, give you some instructions, model how to get it started, and then let you get to work. So what we're going to focus on in this video is how to unpack the requirements for Embedded Assessment 1. Okay. All right, so it is in the green box. That is the only piece we're going to look at in this video in this particular part of the text. And then we're going to skip ahead and look at the embedded assessment instructions further back in our books. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start by reading the assignment description for the embedded assessment closely to identify and analyze the components of the assignment. Okay, and it's funny because we're analyzing the prompt that is going to tell us what we need to analyze for the project. But it is important to break a prompt down to understand exactly what it's asking us to do. Not only what it's asking us to do, but what we have to know in order to do that successfully. Okay, so this embedded assessment is writing a literary analysis essay. Now, you have been writing literary analysis paragraphs where you look at one literary element and its impact on the reader or the story. Now, what we're going to do is look at multiple literary elements, devices, and story components, and how they work together to create meaning in a story. Okay? So instead of just looking at one and writing one paragraph, we're going to look at several and expand that into a multiple paragraph essay. So let's go ahead and look at the actual prompt itself, which I have highlighted here in yellow. Your assignment is to write a literary analysis in which you analyze how Zadie Smith uses literary devices or other elements to express the theme of coping with emotional turmoil in the short story Martha, Martha. Couple of things I want to point out. We've been talking about literary analysis. In a literary analysis, you are talking about how the author creates an effect on the reader or the overall meaning of the story. So the theme. Notice we see that word here, theme, right? So this is asking us how she, the author, uses multiple literary devices or short story elements to express this theme. And they are telling us what theme of the story we're going to focus on. So coping with emotional turmoil. All right, so we have a general idea of what this is asking us to do. So what we have to figure out is what are the specific things that I need to do in order to accomplish this? And then how am I going to be successful? Right? What do I need to know so that I can be successful? And how am I going to be graded on it? So we're going to use the assignment and scoring guide, which are further back in our book. And you're going to work on your own, but I'm going to get you started to analyze the prompt and create a graphic organizer that will serve as a visual reminder for the required concepts, right? So what you need to know, knowledge, and then the skills, what you need to do. So it says that you're going to copy this graphic organizer into a reader-writer notebook. You're going to turn it into me, and then I'm going to take what the common elements that I see from all of your work, and I'm going to put them into one graphic organizer that I will then post on our website and in our Google Classroom to give us a reminder of what we're working toward. Okay. The other thing that we're going to do is after each activity between now and the embedded assessment, which will be in about 2.5, 3 weeks, we're going to reflect after each activity on how is that activity preparing us to write the essay? What are the skills and knowledge that we're learning and practicing so that we'll be successful? Because really that's why we do these activities, is to learn the skills and the knowledge and then put them into practice in the embedded assessment. So you can expect that in the following Edpuzzle videos for the future activities, one of the questions that will come at the end will be to reflect on your unpacking of the embedded assessment and how is the activity you completed or the Edpuzzle video you watched related to the embedded assessment. All right, so it tells us we've got to go to the assignment and scoring guide. If you're working in your paper book, that is on pages 152 and 153. Embedded assessments and things like this, activities that are about the embedded assessment, are green. So you'll notice that they're the green pages in your Springboard textbook. Okay, so now if you are in your digital text, then you'll open up your table of contents and scroll down in Unit 1. Here's where we are now, 1.16, until you see Embedded Assessment 1, Writing a Literary Analysis. And you can see that we're about 5 activities, and some of those are multiple day activities. So we're looking at 3 weeks, I think, before we get there. All right, so I'm going to click on that, and here it is. Now, what I want you to notice is that you have to scroll down. Now, if you have it in front of you, it's 2 pages. You can see it all at the same time. I like to do this unpacking on paper because I like to be able to see it all side by side. If you're doing it digitally, that's okay. It'll work. You just may end up seeing things that repeat a little bit. So here is the prompt that we just read. The directions for making the graphic organizer said I needed to break down the concepts that I need to know and understand. So that's going to be knowledge. And I need to understand the skills that I have to actually put in process. I actually have to do things. So those are verbs and nouns. So knowledge, nouns, skills, verbs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the prompt and then through the whole guide and the scoring guide exemplary column. And I'm going to circle any verbs I see. And this is easy. You just go in and you click on it, and then you click on the circle. Okay. So I'm circling verbs and I'm underlining nouns. So remember, nouns are the concepts. Verbs are the things you're going to do, the skills. So my assignment is to write. That's a verb. That's something I have to do. I'm going to circle it. A literary analysis. Well, gosh, I can't write one if I don't know what one is. So I've underlined that. In which you analyze. I'm going to do that. How Zadie Smith, well, I don't even know who she is. I do. So but I'm going to underline that because I need to find out who she is. So I'm going to analyze how she uses literary devices. I need to know what literary devices are, or other elements. I wonder what they mean by elements. So I underline that to express the theme of coping with emotional turmoil in the short story Martha, Martha. So I underlined theme because I need to know what theme is. And I underlined the short story Martha, Martha because if I haven't read it and I don't know what happens in it, I can't discuss this theme with any intelligence. All right. Now, I'm going to keep going down. I'm going to keep circling verbs, planning, pre-writing, annotate. Here's some things, a device or an element, evidence, right? I need to know, how does she use the devices? Okay, so how does she use them? That's something I need to know. Drafting, that's something I'm going to do. Organizing is something I'm going to do. Ooh, what is a claim? I better underline that. So you're going to keep going. You're going to keep underlining and circling. I'm not going to, I will let you do the rest of that. Don't worry about the reflection. This comes later. That's for after we do the assignment. But I do want you to go through the scoring guide and continue to underline and circle. Now, I don't want you to do this in the incomplete column. I don't want you to be an incomplete writer. I want you to strive to be exemplary. If I were grading and everything fell in this column right here, this would be the A column. This would be your B column, proficient. You're doing exactly what you're asked, but nothing better. Emerging, you almost got there, but not quite. You're learning. It's not horrible, but it's not great. This is your C column. Incomplete is your D and your F column. Could be both, right? Because maybe you tried and it's a D. Maybe you just didn't do anything, and so it's an F, right? But you don't want to strive for these things. You want to strive to be the best. So go through the exemplary column. That cuts down on your work by 75%. So go through the exemplary column, underline the nouns, circle the verbs. Okay. Now, it said you had to create a graphic organizer. You can do this in multiple ways. You can do it on paper. You really can. You can do it on paper. If you do it on paper, just use your phone or your your webcam. You could hold it up in front of your webcam, So let's say this is a piece of paper. I can hold it up here and then use my webcam to take a picture of it. Just make sure that I can see what it says. Or you can use a Google Doc. So you can see that I've started one here. I created a 2-column graphic organizer. And on one side, I put the skills. So these are all of the verbs, the things that I will have to do. And I put the knowledge, the things that I need to know in order to do those things. Okay. So that's another way to do it. Now, I started to put in my verbs and my nouns, my skills and my knowledge. I didn't finish. Okay. And then I realized that some of them went together. So I started to color code them. So for example, it told me I needed to plan and that I needed to organize. I'm going to move myself. Well, that's part of writing. So in order to write, I have to plan and organize. So I started to color code what some of these things need to go together. So to write, I have to plan, I have to organize. To analyze, I have to know about, oh gosh, you know what? These are in the wrong place, aren't they? So it's a good thing that I did that. So I'm going to take these out and I'm going to move them over here, but I'm going to keep them color coded because I want to know that they all go with writing. Okay. All right. So good catch. Good job, you guys. All right. So analyzing, these are all things that I need. Analyzing is the writing part or the reading part, excuse me. And then after I read it and I understand it, I'm going to put it in my writing. But, we analyze by examining something closely. Okay. All right. So this is one way to do it in a linear table with 2 columns where I kind of color code or somehow identify what things go together with what skill and what knowledge. Now, here's another kind of fun way that you can do it. So I've started one over here on Jamboard. And as I was going through everything, I realized that in the main prompt, there were really only 2 verbs, writing and analyzing. And then all the other verbs that came later and all of the knowledge had to do with one of these 2 things. And so I decided I was just going to separate it into my 2 verbs, writing and analyzing, and then put the things that go with them there. So Jamboard's not hard to use. I put a video in with one of the choice boards. I think it was last week. There are dozens of them out there on YouTube that you could watch. You have a pen or a marker or a paintbrush. You have an eraser and whatever you call this. What is that called? A select tool. But the one I used was first I used shapes and I made my circles here and I put some text in them. And then I used these sticky notes. So I was using sticky notes in yellow to identify that was a noun, a verb, something that I needed to know about. Okay, so under write, I needed to know what editing is, what revising is, what organizing is. Now, this could be a verb, in which case I might change the color of it. So let's edit that and make that blue. So I might make that blue to identify that is a verb and not a noun. They still go together, organizing with writing. Oh, here's another one, same thing. So I can edit this one again and make it blue. All right, so 2 options. Third option is to create it on paper. You don't have to make circles and sticky notes. You can create a T-chart in Jamboard just like you do in Google Docs. You can make triangles or make webs off of webs. So for example, if I wanted to say I'm going to analyze Martha for its literary devices, maybe I'm making bubbles instead of those, and I need to know the theme of Martha, Martha, right? And short story elements. So it's up to you. So you're going to create a graphic organizer, get it loaded into the Google Classroom when you turn it in, and then I will compile them all, take all the common aspects and put it into a graphic organizer that we will use so that we can reflect each time we do an activity and see if we are learning these skills and the knowledge needed to be successful. Alrighty, so if you are ready, you may go and make your graphic organizer. I will see you in the next video.